Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 152 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the #1 live podcast in Canada. We're recording on Monday, September 24th, 2018, officially the saddest day of the year.
Wow. I'm Gavin, a business owner, gun enthusiast, hunter, atheist, and CCFR field officer for the GTA. And there is a very good chance that I am going to be very drunk for this episode because I am several glasses of show prep deep at this point because of the horrible, horrible news that we have to deliver to you guys later on.
Marty, hunter and sports shooter in rural southern Ontario.
As always, I'm your host. My name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. You can visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Wow, I've had a couple of glasses of show prep. You can visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. You can find versions on the show, Stitcher, iTunes, English, carry on.
You can check the podcast out on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast. To everybody that does follow the page and watched us do the Facebook Live thing yesterday for the town hall, thank you. We've got like 3,100 or something views. I last checked on that video, which is awesome. Keep up the good work and sharing that stuff. We'll do our best to get out to these things and, you know, be the actual media, unlike the real media. Yeah, check us out. We the media now.
If you're new, thanks for tuning in for the first time. And if you follow us on the social media, you should like, click, and subscribe on the YouTube. And we also publish the podcast. I'm only 3 weeks behind in editing, but they'll get out there. So RSS feeds and stuff, guys. Sign up for those.
All right, as always, we need your help. Support the show. Visit patreon.com/CPP. Help us fund an intern who can edit the episodes and get them out on time. By pledging just $1 per episode, you can get a better quality version of the show.
Is that even possible?
I mean, I can't imagine, but apparently it exists.
It really should say a higher bitrate version of the audio.
Yeah.
That'd be more, so it takes up more space on your disk drive.
Yeah, but my studio quality microphone sounds super sultry now that Marty fixed it for me because I was using it wrong.
There you go. You heard it, folks. You can hear Andrew's sultry radio voice for just a
episode. And as always, you can show you are not a communist trying to consume goods for free by supporting us and buying a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. And you can find that on the homepage following the link conveniently located on the right.
Always on the right. That's us.
And
Arrowhead Coffee.
Listeners.
Oh, let's hope so. Arrowhead Coffee brings us my favorite segment of the show. Arrowhead Coffee is owned and operated by Canadian Armed Forces veterans. They love our country, the true north, strong and free, their family and friends. Join Arrowhead Coffee for their hunt. No, wait, that's not how you read the AdWords. One more time. Join Arrowhead Coffee on their hunt for the perfect brew to raise morale and bring that feeling of home to you no matter where you are. A portion of all profits helps Canadian Armed Forces members, veterans, and their families. That brings me to, what are you drinking? This is where I ask our esteemed panel, or at least the guys that called in tonight, what they're drinking. Gavin, what are you drinking?
Copious amounts of Gosling's Black Seal rum and Coke Zero.
Excellent. Marty, what are you drinking?
Tonight I have the ever delicious Neo Citron Extra Strength Lemon.
Nice. It's a good choice. I've done that.
How much alcohol is in that?
Not nearly enough.
I'm drinking Crown Royal Maple because it's Canadian, and also I need whiskey. P.S. Become a Patreon. I need whiskey.
We all do after today.
We have some upcoming events to tell everybody about. Ragnarok Tactical is hosting a tactical first responder trauma course on October 13 and 14 in Mississauga. The course fee is $450. This is payable to Spent Brass Training LLC out of California. Their lead instructor is coming up to deliver the absolute best first aid training you can get in Canada. Nobody else does anything like this. It's as close as we can get to TCCC in a weekend for civilians. It's going to be badass. You're going to get bled on. You're going to put stuff in holes. Stuff's going to get put in holes. I don't know. Things are going to happen. I'm probably going to get to shoot a side of pork beforehand to show how external ballistics work. No, wait. Internal ballistics? Yeah. After it hits the side of pork.
Yeah, it's pretty badass, not going to lie. You should be there.
Yeah, definitely be there. We also have a 22 rimfire precision match coming up at Guelph Rod and Gun Club. Title sponsors, of course, Ragnarok Tactical. So I feel like that's what we do at Ragnarok Tactical is we sponsor shit. October the 27th, match fee is going to be $40. Obviously, the Guelph Gun Club gets their 50% of the gate because that's what they demand in order to run a match there. It'll be 5 stages, 50 rounds, 0 to 100 yards. If you have more than one magazine for your 22 rifle, that's probably helpful.
I'm going to be there. It's going to be super fun. I mean, it's 22. Like, it's super cheap. It's easy to get into. If you've never done anything competitive, this is a fun one to get started with. I mean,
feedback on the YouTube. Apparently, we need to drink more. But also, Ragnarok Tactical prize donations for the Canadian Precision Rimfire Series were a big hit. We sent them tourniquets and bandages, so I'm not sure why they made people smile, but I'm glad they did. Let's do some news.
They came in super handy.
Ooh.
Okay.
I guess it's better to have a bandage when you need it than to not have one when you need it.
You know what else would be good that you can buy from Ragnarok Tactical if you want to have it and not need it, but also give me some money? Level 4 body armor. You should definitely buy some Croatian-made, like, top-tier European brand name plates issued to military and police forces throughout Europe. NIJ4 compliant plates. They'll stop. Well, we have lab reports that say they'll stop a 30-06 armor piercing round, but we couldn't get those because 30-06 armor piercing is hard to come by. But we shot it with 7.62-54 Russian, and that's basically the same thing, and it stopped that. And then for fun, we shot it with 4.58 Win Mag, and it stopped that too, because when in doubt, elephant guns out, right?
Well, exactly that, and if you have a bulletproof plate, then that's going to also protect your investment of bandages and chest seals that you purchased from us as well.
That's right. So plates for the part that's hard to put the tourniquets on, tourniquets for the parts on the outside that matter less. Something like that, anyway.
Yeah.
Buy some body armor. Buy some tourniquets. Let's do some news. Everybody that matters, everybody that was on the panel was at the Select Shooting Supplies 3rd annual range day at the, what's the name of our gun club, Marty? It's the Woodstock Fish and Game Protective Association.
The Oxford Fish and Game Protection Association.
I was so damned close because I always call it the Oxford Gun Club, and I always get told it's not. And anyway, you volunteered to work the weekend. How was that? You have a good time? Did you get sick?
I was already starting to get sick beforehand, so it just didn't help, I'm sure. It was good. There was a lot of people. I don't know what the final number was in terms of people went through. I know he was expecting around 600 to 700 people. I don't really know what the final count was, though, but it was a lot of people that came through. And what was surprising to me was the number of new shooters. I'd say it was at least a third people that had never shot guns before.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so that was like 200 people probably plus that had never shot before that came out, got to try, rifles, pistols, shotguns, and experience, firearms in a very positive way. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is having a good time. So my hat's off to Select Shooting Supplies for putting this on. This is not a money maker for them by any stretch of the imagination. It is a ton of work, and there's no way that they, see a return on this. And this is one of the things that they do for the community, and it's a great event.
Yeah, I want to make a snappy comment about like how many people died, but I feel that's in poor taste because Dean runs a super solid event, and Dean and Select Shooting Supplies is a great business that firearms owners in Canada should be supporting them because he does ship right away and his shipping is reasonable. Plus, if you're in Southern Ontario, it's convenient to get to. It's right off the 401.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about Dean and everyone at Select Shooting. I mean, when you're not spending money at Ragnarok, you should be spending it with those guys because they're fantastic and probably the best or very close to the best besides us in terms of customer service.
Everybody knows we have the best customer service.
Make it out, basically all of the importers and distributors came out to this event and brought the various things from their lineup. So there was all kinds, you could try all kinds of different guns, pistols, rifles, shotguns. Beretta was there. They had like their full lineup all the way up to a DT-11 on the shotgun range that you could try shooting some clays with, which, it's not very often you can just have a distributor there handing you a $10,000 shotgun and say, go have fun with it.
Yeah, the last time I looked at a DT-11, I think it was $12,000, but it might have been one of the special edition ones.
Yeah, it can get up there, depending if you get the weird, is it the EKS stock as well? That it gets like 16, 18,000 or something like that.
Yeah, they're nice. I didn't shoot any of the shotguns. I went over, briefly looked. We did spend a bunch of time talking to people, and we did go to the rifle and pistol ranges. Then I walked by the shotguns very snobbishly.
Yeah, I was at the pistol range. I was running the FX9, which a lot of interest in that, obviously, seeing as they're soon to be available.
Yeah, I guess Andrew and I were both curious about that. I did not shoot that one. I shot the MCX and the Scorpion, and then kind of eyed the FX9 because it was right next to the Scorpion, but figured it was very similar to an AR in terms of its function. And I've already got a pistol caliber ARs type thing, and so figured it would feel the same. But I guess you have something different to say about it.
So I want to preface all of this with, one, this is a pre-production unit. And apparently it was an early pre-production unit.
Fair.
So anything that I say, like I'm sure that they have, that's the point of pre-production, is to, test them, see what they need to change, and then make those changes. So we'll have to, reserve final judgment for when the production ones come out. I'll say this, by running that gun, I got to stand beside that gun, shooting, from it, a clean gun to, multiple thousands of rounds down it without oiling it, without cleaning it. So,
yeah.
You got to see the kind of full run. And it started off, it was running great. And then eventually, as it started to get dirty, we started having things like the bolt not locking open anymore and things like that. So that was a bit of an issue. And similar with the magazines we had with it, they were the Magpul Glock mags they were the pinned ones.
Yeah.
And they were pinned at 10, not 10 and a half. They were pinned at 10. So getting like that 10th round in was tight.
And I imagine seating on a closed bolt is probably awkward as well.
You can seat on the closed bolt, but then you can't rack the bolt.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's just not enough. There's not enough give. So that was kind of a couple things like that. But the one comment I would have with the gun, the only thing that I saw that I would notice that I would actually like, and that I couldn't just justify to it being, dirty or it being the mags being crappy, was it's a dirty gun in terms of, it looks like it seemed to me like it has a timing issue and the bolt is opening too soon. So it's a direct blowback like a pistol. Like there's no gas tube, no gas key or nothing like that.
I was about to ask you if it was blowback, and that settles that. So yeah, I'm not surprised. And
so like compared to there was three other pistol caliber carbines there. There was the Scorpion, there was the X95 and 9mm, and there was the the MPX. Between all of those and all of the pistols there, to the right of the FX9, the entire table by the end of the day was covered in unburnt gunpowder. Because it's just spewing unburnt gunpowder out the port. Like the bolt's just opening too soon. And any lefty that shot it was not happy because they were just getting powder blowing right back in their face.
So that should be a weight adjustment. It's direct blowback, so heavier buffer or heavier bolt.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, you know, if you could just put a head like a rifle buffer in there or something like that, and get a bit of dwell, that should solve it. That was the only thing that I saw with it. Otherwise, everybody loves shooting it. Like, it's a super fun. It's balanced really nicely. It seemed pretty accurate.
Yeah, basically everything you've said about it is pretty much exactly what I have to say about the JR Carbine. It's super fun. Like, you could shoot that thing all day. It still feels like you're shooting something on like a 22, but you could still shoot it all day without complaining. It's got a nice balance. It shoots really well, but man, it is a dirty gun to shoot. Like, you have to clean that thing regularly or it starts jamming. But I think that's just kind of the, you know, the nature of the beast when you're dealing with like a pistol caliber blowback rifle.
Yeah. And like I said, like, this is pre-production, and I think if they, like as Andrew said, if they got more weight into the bolt or added, you know, a heavier buffer type of thing and get some dwell time, it would make a huge difference. And that's something, even as a user, if you know, you can make that adjustment yourself, presumably. Yeah. I'm assuming it uses a standard buffer.
Hopefully.
But yeah, that was one of the only things, is that it was, I mean, the table, like at the end of the day, I'm like, I could like roll up this cloth and like load up a couple 109 mil at the with the amount of unburnt powder that's just like laying on the table.
Was there anything else from the event that you guys saw or wanted to see or spent time with?
Well, we mentioned that was it Downrange TV or whatever, they were there, and then the CCFR was there filming for CCFR is the
they were there for Downrange TV because that's their
Downrange TV or whatever.
Yeah,
and there was another YouTube one here.
Coat of Arms.
Yeah. There should be some footage popping up from the event here and there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was really well run. I love to see that there were that many people out, and like you said, a lot of new shooters, which is also great that people are coming out and trying it and wanting to get into the sport. I didn't try a whole lot because, I mean, we've been fairly fortunate being in, you know, the lifestyle that we're accustomed, that we get to try some pretty cool things, and a lot of our friends have some cool stuff we get to try. I would have liked to have tried the 180C or whatever, 108C, the Wolverine.
The WK 180.
Yeah, that's the one. I didn't realize it was there until after the fact, but I mean, I imagine it. I mean, they're a decent manufacturer, so I imagine it shoots fairly well. I mean, I don't know. I'm still glad I went the SLR route now that I've got mine functioning, because I think that 180 is kind of ugly in its rudimentary appearance, but from what I hear, it functions well.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything bad about it from talking to the guys that were over there on that range.
Yeah, and anything that's, you know, cool and not restricted in my books is awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, kudos to those guys for doing something a little bit different, a little bit cheaper price point on it, but still reliable.
Cool. I don't have anything else from that. Historical Arms Society, or I think that's the right name for that museum, was there. They had some machine guns that I can't own, but I could fondle. There's good times.
Yeah. One day.
Some neat looking stuff there too.
Yeah.
And then CFA was there and CCFR was there. Rod and Tracy were there.
Yeah. She wasn't sure whether her house was still standing at the time because the tornado that just ripped through Ottawa. Luckily it is. for anyone that's listening. She was one of the fortunate ones, but
all right. So I think that'll cover that up. Let's trigger Gavin because he hasn't had a drink in a few minutes.
oh Jesus! All right,
So,
hold on. Yeah.
Saturday, happy, fun, gun times, gun club, shooting stuff.
Yeah.
I have 1,000 people coming out and having fun, and everybody was safe and legal and had a great time. And then Sunday, there was a town hall in Toronto on the elimination of gun violence. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't even really know where to start with this, but I guess there were two Liberal MPs that decided to host a town hall because of all of the nonsense that's been going on in the media lately. And they brought in Bill Blair, the pot czar, or the gun ban czar, I guess, as he's called now.
He's also now the Minister of Border Security.
Yeah, border security and organized crime. I'm not really sure necessarily how those things relate. Like, I know that they do, but do we really need to tie those two things together? Because if organized crime and border security are such a thing, and that we need a guy to like focus on that we have a huge problem, in my opinion. And we maybe have more. We need more than one inept former police officer to be in charge of this. But I guess him, along with a gentleman that started the Zero Gun Violence organization, a emergency room medical doctor, and then some lawyer person, some sort of criminal justice specialist. I use that term loosely because of things that he said. We're there to answer questions. Now, the problem is that when we showed up, you had to write your question on a card and hand it in to the people. They then accumulated all the cards and would ask the questions for us. So it's not to be biased towards any particular person. And then that way they could kind of eliminate supposedly, the same question if it's been asked multiple times. But to me, it looks like they stacked the deck. And they certainly did in terms of the panelists, because all of the panelists, I won't necessarily say they were anti-gun, but they weren't anti-gun ban per se. Whole thing was about 2 hours long. They talked a whole lot of nonsense, but the only person that really mentioned a gun ban was Bill Blair, obviously, because he's been mandated with examining the impacts, pro or con, in terms of how it affects Canadians and public safety, which it affects law-abiding gun owners. It does not affect public safety because criminals don't give a shit about gun bans. They're going to have them illegally anyways. We all know this. All the listeners know this. So they tried to kind of, in my opinion, stay away from that and talked about the things that do matter, and that is improving the socioeconomic conditions. So less poverty means less people need to turn to a life of crime, which means there's less gun violence. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think everyone agrees to this. Even the pro-gun side of this agrees that that's what causes crime. So the Dog and Pony Show kind of rolled into town and pushes this topic without really talking about a gun ban, so that everybody can go, oh yeah, we agree with you. So then later they can go, oh well, we had these consultations in town halls with the public, and they all agreed with everything that we had to say. So let's have a gun ban because that's what we agreed to. So it's kind of disingenuous, in my opinion. There was a lot of misinformation and nonsense and lies that were spoken. And if you look at anything in the media, it makes all of the pro-gun people, which somehow being pro-gun is pro-gun violence, and not just pro legal gun owners being able to enjoy their pastime and hobby in a responsible manner. But I think that kind of touches on everything. I've been drinking heavily, so I'm kind of rambling at this point. So if either of you two have any specific questions, feel free.
Well, I wanted to make sure I let you get the whiskey out of your system.
That's not happening until probably tomorrow afternoon.
Let me try that again. Then I want to make sure that you got through your drunken rambling.
Oh well, that's not going to happen either. But I can pause it temporarily.
There you go. I did want to thank you for taking the video and live streaming that on the Facebook, because Canadian Patriot Podcast, we the official media now, because despite other media personalities being at the event, we seem to be the only people actually covering the event. There's a bunch of other stuff, CTV and Sun and City, I think, all had excerpts and interviews with people after the fact, but nobody else actually had coverage from the event.
Yeah, I managed to get a good chunk of it until my phone died, and then luckily I was there with my lovely girlfriend Angela, who filmed the remainder of it and posted that as well. I'm still trying to get the video and compile it into one so we can put it on the YouTubes.
Well, for right now, I've got your video on the Facebook, and I've got a link in the show notes if anybody wants to watch. It's like an hour and a half of video that you have, something like that.
Yeah.
An hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, the whole thing was 2 hours long. I think there was a few minutes that were missed while we were kind of like, my phone died, and then we started filming with hers, and then posted it to the comment section of the Facebook page, which is why you should totally follow the Facebook page.
Yeah, definitely follow the Facebook page. It's good for you.
But yeah, it was. I mean, I'm glad I went, but it was such a waste of fucking time. Because they bill it as an open forum and a town hall on this, but I mean they certainly stacked the deck in their favor, and not a single panelist was pro gun whatsoever. Like not even.
They're not looking to have an honest discussion.
No,
they're not.
I mean
They're there to tell you what you're supposed to be thinking.
Yeah, we know. I mean it's the dog and pony show.
Well, let's hear what we should be thinking. This is from the alleged physician.
First of all, we need to recognize that 75%, 3/4 of all firearm deaths in Canada are suicides. Another 1/5 of homicides are domestic violence. So what we need to focus on from an emergency point of view is keeping firearms away from those who are at risk. It's a fact. We want to stay as data-driven as possible. It's a fact that having a gun in the house increases the risk of suicide, increases the risk of domestic violence. Nothing else different, just whether there's a gun in the house or not.
Yeah, so making things up because we don't actually know how facts work.
No, but it's a fact. It's a fact.
I would like to see some statistics to show how having a gun makes any of these things happen.
I've got some statistics, but every statistic I have actually proves the exact opposite of what he said is true.
Right, and that's kind of my point with this, is like this dude is literally making stuff up.
First off, we need to recognize that 75% of all firearms deaths in Canada are suicides, and another 1/5 of homicides are domestic violence. So 1/5 is 20%, 75%. So 95% of 95% are not gang violence. That's the 5%.
I'm no mathematician, but that doesn't seem like it adds up. Right? How many shootings happened in Toronto this year? We're at like 130 something.
I don't know, man.
And then I'm guessing that where the stat that he's trying to, what was being misconstrued here, is that if you have a gun in the house, then the risk of suicide by gun is higher.
Oh, absolutely. And that's entirely valid. Having things tend to mean those things get used more. But that's not what he said. And
that's like if you have a swimming pool on your property, the chance that you're going to drown in a swimming pool is higher.
Exactly.
Right. But the way that he phrased that is not the correlation here. He's saying that having the gun, and he's very clear about this towards the end of that little audio clip.
Have a gun, you are going to
having the
suicide.
gun increases the risk. No, having the gun does in fact not do that.
Yeah, I mean, if the guy wanted to say that using a firearm in a suicide attempt, you were more likely to be successful in that attempt, then I would completely agree with that, because that is firearms are designed to kill. We all know this. And so they're very good at it. That's a fact. But statistically as well, like, twice as many people try to hang themselves as shoot themselves when they're committing suicide. And the success rate, and I hate calling it that, but that's what it's referred to, is equal. I mean, within 1% in terms of hanging and shooting oneself. So do we ban rope or belts? I mean, is that a thing? I mean, and on par with shooting oneself, poisoning oneself is pretty much right in and around the same percentage in terms of the numbers of people using that as their method. So when you go and get a prescription from your doctor for something that could poison you and kill you, do we require them to put that in a locked medicine cabinet with a special lock? I mean, I know they have child locks on them, but generally old people go and ask their kids to open that for them because they can't. It's only the kids that can open it. At least that's what my parents always did when I was a kid. You know, like, nobody's asking for more restrictions on prescription medications or dangerous medications where we've got to double lock them to keep everybody safe. But somehow, you know, firearms, scary, and having one in the house is going to make you more susceptible to suicide, like it makes us depressed or something. And not only that, we're more prone to be abusive to our spouses and family members as well, according to that asshat anyways.
What sucks is that this is exactly what the left always does. Like, they use half truths, you know, these either misconstruing statistics or cherry picking, and then, you know, changing what the statistics actually are saying. And then they send that out there. They send that information out there, and it gets eaten up and used over and over and over again. And the ability to correct that false information, like there's no channel. Like, you'll never be able to correct that information once it gets ground.
Well, exactly. And so this was the biggest problem with the whole town hall thing. And like, when this guy is spouting this nonsense, which, like, I mean, the burden of proof should be on him to prove that his statistic is true. Unfortunately, it's not. It's on us to prove that it's false. And the minute that we started hollering and screaming out at this guy and calling him out for his bullshit, you know, we start getting tweeted by like Polysuivant or like all these other, you know, anti-gun organizations that we're the bad people and that we're booing this guy and being rowdy and disruptive. I mean, the Globe and Mail had it that way. CP24 kind of billed us that way. And every other article I've seen that's come out in the, you know, just slightly more than 24 hours since the end of this town hall has painted the pro-gun attendees of this as the negative participants, and that, you know, we're the ones that are making stuff up, when it's quite obvious, if you look at StatsCan and all the other things out there that relate to suicide rates and things like that, that we aren't making it up. He's the one that's completely talking out of his ass.
You know, it's very similar to like Trudeau's claim of like how he's lowered taxes on the middle class. And it's like, Yeah, but what about all this statistics and data here that shows that they're
Yeah.
paying like, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They just say it.
Yeah, so
And
much
all
for
they have to do is say it.
fact-driven policy and transparency, right?
Yeah, you just say it. That's all you have to do in today's society, especially like from the left, because they just say it, and then the media defends them, and the media just makes up the stats to call whatever they say.
Yeah, I mean, every stat that we have, and it's taken from government sources too, right, shows that this is the exact opposite of what is actually happening. Like, I mean, it's frustrating and it's annoying and it's insulting being a gun owner, being called like to your face by some guy that's supposed to be an expert talking about this subject matter that we're all concerned about, which is gun violence. That as a gun owner, just having a gun in the house makes us more likely to kill ourselves or abuse our spouses. Like that's fucking retarded.
So you know what? Here's the thing: we are the minority group that is being targeted as a election strategy.
Yeah, I mean it's clearer and clearer by the minute, especially with today's.
We're the only
Yeah.
We're the only subgroup that the liberals don't like.
Yeah.
This is true, but I don't see that there's a way to solve this problem. There's 2 million gun owners, and we can't get our shit together as 2 million licensed gun owners. Like, how many people showed up to this event, Gavin? There was 30 firearms owners there.
If you listen to the guy that says that, I mean, what was the zero gun violence social programs advocate. There were
this was the only member of the panel that decided to not wear a suit to this event.
Yeah,
this was the member of the panel that was talking about how
but only if you listen to his CP24 interview that he did after the fact. There were hundreds of us there, and in that particular interview, he says that we were angry because they are targeting legal gun owners, and that we should be angry. I'm paraphrasing here; these are not exact words, but we should be, because that we aren't the problem. It's gangs that are the problem. But in reality, there were, oh man, maybe.
Hold on. This is the same dude that wants to see guns banned because there's too many young hoodlums that are not able to run away because people have switched to semi-automatic military-grade assault pistols instead of 6-round revolvers.
Yeah, we had a good chuckle at military grade when they said that. But I mean,
my guns are much better than military grade. Thank you.
Oh yeah, he flip-flopped on quite a few things and was kind of, I mean, they all want money. That's what they want. They all are pushing the social programs because banning guns doesn't make them money. Pushing social programs does.
Got to get those Gibbs.
But I mean, yeah.
Watching the video, that dude just irritated the crap out of me because
like, I think they
clearly don't know anything about what you're talking about, and you're making things up because you're like he's got that fake smart thing. Like he's trying to use $5 words, but he's like Trudeau. He doesn't know what they are, and he's only got $2.95.
Yeah, I mean, he's been accused of being high in the comments in the live feed when I was streaming it, and I would not.
I don't think he was high. I think that was just the way that dude is. He was probably high, but now has some permanent disability as a result.
Yeah. So I mean, there was people talking all kinds of nonsense, and he was. I mean, all four of them on there were. He's all about the social programs, but I mean, at least in the video, in the interview after. He says that a gun ban isn't going to be effective and that going after legal gun owners isn't the solution. Going after criminals is the solution, and improving social economic status and everything in the community is, and building stronger communities is, which is what we've said from the get-go, that like a lot of this has to do with the breakdown of the family unit. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. You don't necessarily have to have a traditional family unit, but you still need a positive male and female role model in your child's life or your children's life. That could be an uncle, an aunt, whatever, but you need that in order to raise your children properly. And that is not happening. And it's not happening, especially in low-income neighborhoods. for whatever reason, it's not happening. And they all agreed that this was the only thing that was actually going to make any sort of impact, but it would be a 10+ year cycle before we even started to notice any changes in it. Which is something.
Why would they talk about that when they're building their voter base on the fall of the nuclear family? Like that's.
So they didn't actually say it that way. They said we need to build stronger communities, and they said that we need to improve everybody's socioeconomic situation. So by giving them,
let me translate that. Building stronger communities is getting the government to raise your kids for you. That's what they mean by that.
Yeah, and raising your socioeconomic status is giving them the handouts and the, universal income and all of those things in order to raise that poverty level up, which is going to raise taxes for everybody. When what they should be doing is cutting taxes to those that don't make enough, and then they have more money in their pocket. But we've all said this 100 times on the show, but they don't listen because that doesn't put money in their pocket. Social programs and having people go and agree with the social programs puts money in the government's pocket, where they give 10 cents to the people that need it and they keep the 90 cents to themselves.
All right, let's do the next one. This is Bill Blair, if I'm not mistaken.
Tells me that in the last 3 years, they've seen a change in the proportion of handguns that they're seizing in their criminal investigations. And now, approximately half, and perhaps even a little more than half, of the guns they're seizing.
That's a lie.
That's a lie!
Yeah. And heckling ensues, and eventually the moderator steps in and tells you all to shut the fuck up and sit down.
Hasn't that been disproven multiple times? Like even in a lot of the newspapers have printed retractions on that?
Repeatedly. Because access to information results from Toronto Police Service have shown that they cherry-picked a statistic from 2013, and even their cherry-picked statistic is false.
Yeah, on average, it's something like 20% of guns are sourced domestically. And so that's 20% of crime guns are sourced domestically. And that's using like the largest number they have in terms of how they classify things. And what is considered a crime gun is pretty much anything that is there when there's a commission of a crime. So,
right, so it doesn't have to be somebody got shot. It could be somebody was called for a domestic disturbance and they happen to have guns in the home, or somebody was arrested for violating a highway traffic act and happened to have guns in the car because they were doing one of the range, or any of these situations where there's a gun.
Somebody breaks into a legal gun owner's home, and there are guns present. Or
so these are all counted as crime guns.
Suicide, and there is a legally owned gun present.
So clearly very good.
Yeah, so there's some issues with that.
David points out that serial numbers filed off also counts towards that. So if they can't figure out where the gun came from, the gun is assumed to have been sourced domestically. Because there's no way that would skew the data.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the stats, and there's the police ATIP for the Toronto Police Service that goes back, I mean, a decade-ish. And it's fairly consistent in terms of the number of guns that have been seized and the number of guns that are sourced domestically. And it's roughly around 20% the entire time. But somehow, according to Blair, in the last 3 years, that has been 50% or more. And then that's where he got cut off by everyone screaming lies at him. But again, it's lying. But again, it's the same thing. Like, they get up there and spout whatever garbage they want, and it's up to us to prove them wrong. And when we do, we get cut off.
Yeah, you don't have a platform, though.
Yeah. And when we do,
so we have a platform. Instead of Monday night at 9 o'clock on YouTube, till YouTube, gets rid of us,
or we run out of alcohol.
That won't happen. Well, become a Patreon today. Support my addiction.
So what if instead of making the guns doubly illegal, What if we just make suicide double illegal?
Well, so one of the things we talked about is we're going to ban poverty. That's going to bring that's going to bring crime down. We're going to just eject poor people from the country. No problem then.
Yeah, I don't see that being a favorable outcome.
But it'll work, guys. I mean, we all know that poverty is the problem. So if we just ban poverty, that'll work, right?
Yeah.
Let's just divert the politician's salary to poor people live in their riding.
That is an excellent idea.
I support this plan. I don't have anything else from this. Just for our listeners, if you want the audio, go grab the go watch the video on the Facebook. I don't think you actually have to log into Facebook to. Hey, Marty, do you have to log into Facebook to see this video?
Hang on.
It should be shareable amongst. I mean, it's
let's assume you don't.
Yeah.
No, I can see it.
See, so even if you don't have a
Facebook, lies on you, not us. Yeah.
Even if you don't have the Facebook, you can still go watch the video.
Yeah. No, you should. I mean, it's nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense. Everybody that spoke at it was nonsense. We all knew this going in, but I'm glad I was there to at least be tweeted about by Polly Suivant because I was the guy in the camouflage hat.
Right. You're famous for upsetting the Wendy Sue here. That's
Did they include a photo or just comment about the guy at the camouflage hat?
They just commented about the camo wearing people booing the doctor when he made up his false statistics. Which was me, I'll be honest. I mean, if you follow our video, if you listen to our live stream of it, you can hear a lot of my snarky comments. And I don't care. I'm proud of everything that I said.
I wouldn't.
If they're not willing to have an honest conversation, then I think you show them the respect.
Yeah. Also, for the record, because I know we're going to get into this later, there were two Liberal MPs that were the ones that were hosting this. One of them voted yes on C-71. One of them was not there. Just for the record.
Well, it seems like that's good transition to C-71 because as far as I saw, every Liberal Green NDP voted yes on C-71.
Yeah, do we have outcomes of the?
Give me.
Is there a?
Yeah, give me a second. I'll pull up the actual numbers for you here.
I know it was on CPAC, but I don't have that kind of free time these days.
I watched.
People's Party abstained.
Yeah, as did a few others, but yes, 185 in favor of C-71, 79 against.
And do we know why Mad Max was absent?
At this moment, we do not. We do know that he was present at question period earlier in the day, but he was not at the vote, as were several other pro-gun, but also Liberal MPs. So there's kind of a mixed bag of who wasn't there.
I'm a little bit disappointed in Max, and we'll get to that because we're going to talk about his platform in the next topic. But
let's save our comments on Max, I guess, until we transition into that, because that would be maybe a good transition.
Okay, so let's talk about C-71. So it passed third reading. It's being sent to the Senate. It's entirely conceivable that the Senate will now give it royal assent, or it will pass the Senate, receive royal assent, and become law at some point in the not so distant future, although we don't know exactly what the time frame is on that, right?
Yes. I mean, that is the assumption.
It is likely that it'll be approved by this year. It'll become law this year.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
apparently, gun stores have already received 2 weeks ago their new forms in order to document sales of firearms. So everyone was very sure of themselves and that this was going to pass 2 weeks ago or longer, because it takes time to print stuff and then mail it, that this was going to be passed through and that this would become law.
So summary for C71, because we haven't talked about this in a while, because we've been saying sign the petition, do your thing, but we haven't really talked about this since probably June, when the RCMP did something stupid.
Yeah, they came out with the register your 858s in Swiss Arms now kind of a thing back then.
So let's do the Cole's Notes quick summary of C71. 4 main components to C71 that we're deeply, deeply offended by, because if I've learned anything from watching liberal media, I just need to be offended and then they'll stop doing it.
Ooh, yeah, good call. Use their own tactics against them.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work, but hey, it's worth a try. So the first thing is enhanced background checks. Basically, when you apply for a firearms license now, they do a 5-year background check, including talking to any conjugal partners. That means people that you've cohabitated with or fornicated with in the last 5 years. And they make sure that you're not out to, use machine guns to mow down babies. Not that you can buy machine guns in this country, but
they want to ban assault rifles. Yeah.
I didn't hear what Marty's witty retort was.
I said, or babies.
Yeah, you can't buy babies. Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah, don't buy babies. Not worth it. Bad ROI.
No, but I'm pretty sure you
machine
can go to China and buy
ROI.
babies if you wanted.
Moving on. The enhanced background check will be a lifetime background check. So conceivably, this means everybody you've ever slept with or cohabitated with, as well as a longer period of references than people that have known you for the last 5 years. I'm at a loss how they're going to come up with this form, because it seems ridiculous.
Yeah, like what if you're just like, a mentally
cut a deal
stable...
with Tinder.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like what if you're a mentally stable but just like unlikable guy and you don't have friends for that long?
Oh, well, we've had people that we've talked about on the show like that, where their references have said, no, we don't think that guy should have firearms, and the government has decided to grant them a PAL anyway, and then they've done something stupid with them, like breaking another law, and then had those guns taken away. But anyway, so enhanced background checks is the first one. Second one is mandatory record keeping. This is for stores. So if you're a gun store that's, a gun store, you're going to sell firearms, you now have to record almost like some sort of a registry that you have to keep. You have to record all the information about firearms that you sell. No, but it's very like a registry, because you have to keep all the information about restricted and prohibited firearms, as well as will it include? Yeah, it will include non-restricted firearms again, because they don't currently have.
Let me pull up the photo from the local gun store that posted that they've already received their thing. Which, if you're a gun store and you're listening and you haven't received your forms yet, you should contact the government, because they owe you some forms.
Yeah, so you have to record the buyer's information, their PAL, the gun's information, serial number, all that good stuff, when it was sold. So conceivably, this is supposed to make tracing guns used in commission of crimes easier, though I'm really not sure how this is going to be effective. It seems like a lot more record keeping and overhead for gun stores and for legal firearms owners, and it seems like this information could all be compiled into a list of people with guns.
So what I'm seeing from this image, and I can't read all of it because of the angle of the photo and my intoxication level, but inventory number, activity, class, type, serial number, non-restricted, and then it starts to get really blurry from there. So it does look like if it is non-restricted, they are going to record that.
Well, and that's my understanding, is the non-restricted ones will have to be recorded again, which they don't currently need to do.
Yeah.
Well, they still have to maintain a ledger.
Right. So
yes.
we'll see what this new because I'm unclear what the new ruling actually translates to in plain English, because we haven't got copies of the forms yet. Because why would the government possibly plan ahead and release that sort of data?
Yeah.
So right now with non-restricted, when you buy a store, they are currently recording. They do currently have to record your PAL number and the serial number of the firearm.
Yes and no. From my understanding, that's mandated by different provinces, CFOs in different ways. In Ontario, I know that's the case because the CFO in Ontario is an unkind person, but I don't believe that that's actually Firearms Act. Maybe it's something they're doing optionally. I'm not entirely clear on this because I have had conflicting information, and I treat guns like puppies. I want to go and adopt one that's been previously loved and needs a new home.
Yeah, I mean, and from my personal experience, and I'm not going to out any particular stores, but there are stores that I've gone into and they have asked to see my PAL and written numbers down or taken it to the back room where I can't see what they're doing with it, Canadian Tire. And there are other people that look at my PAL, and as long as it is a non-restricted firearm, go, okay, thank you. And I put it back in my wallet. Then I get to handle all of the guns. And then if I would like to purchase one of them, I go, I would like to buy this firearm. They go, okay, take it up to the front counter. And then I do so and then pay for it and leave. So,
As far as I'm aware, in Ontario, that's not the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, I don't believe that's the case in Ontario, but under the new system, all guns being sold get to be recorded.
yeah.
And I believe the stores are required to hold on to these ledgers for 20 years, which...
Yes, and if they shut down, they have to turn them over to the government.
Man, that is even
that's
longer
a long
than
time. You don't even got to
hang on to our tax records. Yeah, that's 7
exactly.
years.
So,
What
was that? So that's the record keeping. So the third thing is the authorization to transport. What was the C-42? The last conservative bill to try and amend the act to amend the Firearms Act. We're going with that because nobody's correcting me.
Yeah.
Authorization to transport up until that point, a couple of years ago, was a physical paper document that you had to keep that had a list of where you were allowed to go and when, effectively. You could go to certain places at certain times, and this was like a carte blanche blanket thing that allowed you to take your restricted or in some cases prohibited firearms from your domicile to a place that you were allowed to take them. Unlike certain certain liberal election campaigns, this didn't include places like the shopping mall or your local hockey arena, which we've talked about previously. This included things like gunsmiths, ranges, border crossings.
The legitimate places that you would take a firearm.
And you had to take them in a reasonably direct route. This was the language that was on the paperwork at the time, and I understand that some people had language that was slightly altered or amended to say something to the effect of the most direct route. But the paperwork I had said most reasonably direct. So we used that to like say, I'm allowed to stop and get gas, or I'm allowed to go to Tim Hortons and get a coffee because it's on my way.
Yeah. Or you're allowed, like if you're traveling long distances, you're allowed to stay at a hotel and all of that stuff.
Right.
Because I mean, we've all been to matches that are in other cities, and you need to do that. Like if I go shoot a match in Thunder Bay, it's not reasonable to assume that I'm going to drive all the way there, shoot the match, and then drive all the way home. I'm going to probably stop at some point to eat and get gas and stay in a hotel.
Yep. So the rule got changed with C-42 to say that you no longer had to have your physical piece of paper. They just made it a condition of your license. You were allowed to take your guns to places that it was legal to take your guns as long as you were going to those places and only those places and then going home again. The other thing with authorization to transport that used to happen was if you were going to a place that wasn't on your authorization to transport, you could call and you could get a temporary authorization to transport for a specific trip. So if you wanted to go to a gunsmith and you don't have gunsmiths, all the gunsmiths as a place that you was on your list, you could say, I want to go to this specific one. And they would ask you when, or if you want to go to a match at a club that you're not a member of, you could say which club and which date. And they would give you an ATT that would allow you to do that. And it's kind of onerous and a pain in the ass, but it wasn't like, it's not stopping anybody from doing it without getting the piece of paper. It's just giving them an additional piece to track. And this is something that bothers me, because Goodall said in a speech that he was giving in Parliament Hill earlier this year, this was back in, I want to say it was April or May, whenever they were in like first or second reading. One of the things that Goodale, the safety minister, talked about was that the authorization to transport allowed police to detect the transportation of restricted or prohibited weapons for illegal purposes, which I don't understand how it does that, because it never did that, because criminals don't get ATTs.
Whoa. Are you trying to say that gangbangers aren't calling up the CFO and being like, yo, dog, I got to go axe some guy over by the nightclub on Queen Street. I need to transport my illegal firearm there?
Right. So I don't understand this thing that Goodall was talking about on the Hill, because it was like, how is this making community safer? How is this helping police do their job? Because criminals aren't following this law anyway.
Yeah.
So what does it matter if
Does that mean that now we can blame any crimes that occur in the future, and times any shootings in Toronto and all kind of stuff, we can now blame it on Goodale for approving the ATT?
Yes.
I feel like that's as good as an answer as anything else.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. The ATT thing is stupid and cumbersome, but it also does nothing to do. Like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't make anybody safer. Yeah, well, and and I think this is the thing, is it's one of those more, it's like another hurdle for the legal firearms owners, that if you want to do this thing legally, you have to jump through the magic hoop in order to do it.
Yeah, so just to go back to our previous topic of the town hall, and that was one of the things that Blair identified as a weak spot in terms of where guns fall through the cracks from legal owner to illegal owner, is during transportation. Because somehow a law-abiding gun owner is more susceptible to temptation to sell their firearm when they are transporting it from one of the like 5 places they're allowed to, which is absolute bullshit. Like, if a legal gun owner is going to sell his firearm illegally on the black market, he's already made that decision before. Like, he's not like just like driving to the range on like a Saturday to go shooting and then like, you know what? I'm going to sell my Glock today illegally. Let's drive into a bad neighborhood and do that. Like, he's already made that decision that he's going to do that. And those that do is few and far between. But having a piece of paper that you have to call about to get it, like, it's just ridiculous. It's not stopping that from happening. Criminals are going to criminal. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so the fourth and final change with C-71 is the classification of firearms.
This is the most disturbing.
Well, this is the scary, like, Orwellian Big Brother knows best thing, and this isn't even Big Brother. This is the Ministry of, who owns the police in 1984?
The RCMP?
Ministry of Truth. The Queen's Cowboys in any case.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody that is listening knows this. There's 3 kinds of firearms in Canada: non-restricted, restricted, and prohibited.
Well, technically there's 4, because there's antique.
Well, okay, fine. And
those aren't firearms.
Antique's not technically a firearm.
Unless used in the commission of a crime.
And get the fuck off my panel. 3 kinds of firearms: non-restricted, restricted, prohibited, and then, yeah, fine, edge cases with antiques, which are only firearms when they're used in whatever. Piss off.
If you have an antique status revolver and are listening to the show and would like to sell it to the panelists, please send us an email to feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com. Just saying.
Yeah, that too. The classification of firearms right now is supposed to be done by the technical merits that were set by the government in the existing Firearms Act. Exceptions to that are supposed to be done as orders in council, which we have OIC stuff that names, this is why we have named prohibited firearms, like the AK-47. Because the AK-47, in certain configurations, should not be a prohibited firearm.
Agreed.
Right? Like that's, but there, because it is a named example in an order in council, it's on the list of things that are prohibited because the government of the day said that that is no fun and you may not have that.
Unless it's a Valmet and it was given to the natives and we didn't want to offend them, then it's okay.
Then it's okay because we called it by a different name, but it's still an AK, so whatever. So that's how it's supposed to be classified. So there's technical criteria that dictate whether or not the firearms lab that's run by the RCMP are supposed to put a gun into a certain category or not. And most of it has to do with the caliber or dimensions of the firearm, either the overall length of the firearm or the barrel length of the firearm or the caliber that the firearm shoots.
Yeah, or its function.
Yeah, or its function. If it's a fully automatic machine gun type firearm, then it's prohibited by the type of firearm that it is.
Yep.
Right, so generally pistols are restricted, hunting rifles and shotguns are non-restricted, and then you get things that are restricted by order in council, like AR-15s, which should be non-restricted, were briefly prohibited and then put back on the restricted list, thanks to the Dominion of Canada Rifle Association and your local provincial rifle associations for fixing that, because sporting purposes.
Yep.
So we have these criteria. And we have a system through orders in council to have named examples where the government can decide to override those criteria and say that this gun is too much fun and is therefore illegal. The classification of firearms is now being turned over to the quote experts at the Canadian or at the RCMP firearms. These people are far from experts, in my opinion, and regularly try to misclassify things and classify things incorrectly because they don't know what they're doing when it comes to guns. Which I guess the alternative is they do know what they're doing and they're being malicious. But I prefer to think the government is incompetent than actually malicious.
Is this where we go into the bit where we keep doing that RCMP?
That RCMP. We could talk about that RCMP because that's always funny.
Yeah, like the ones that invaded a bunch of people's homes and stole their legally possessed firearms because there was a flood and they had a shopping list. That RCMP?
Oh, the RCMP that lost how many guns in the last 2 calendar years? Are we at 10 now? I think we're in double digits.
You mean the same RCMP that left a gun on the back of a car as they drove off? That RCMP?
The RCMP that physically removed an elderly woman from a conference that Trudeau was giving for asking questions about illegal migrants?
Yes, that RCMP. We could go on and on and on and on.
We have many examples of that RCMP, but the firearms lab.
Yeah, but that RCMP, that's who we're talking about.
That RCMP.
Yeah.
So this is the particularly scary part: is the Queen's Cowboys will be able to, instead of enforcing the law enacted by Parliament, the chief law enforcement agency in Canada will be able to dictate the law and then enforce it.
Yeah, so I guess part of this is they've created about 12 is the prohib status thing, right? Like it's 12 something, right? Like 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like there's a bunch of new categories of 12 that have been created where the CZ858s and the Swiss arms are a different category. And then they've created 2 or 3 other empty categories where things will be able to be classified. So if you own a CZ858 that was previously non-restricted and then it went to prohib and then it was specifically exempt from being prohib, and now if you've got it, it's okay, is now going to go back to prohib, and it's going to be like 1213, I think, is this classification for that one. But it'll only be the CZ858s that are in that category. So if you currently own one, you will be able to register it with the government and be grandfathered in, and then you will continue to be able to use that maybe and or acquire other 858s. And then if you own a Swiss Arms, you'll be in a 1213 or 14 or whatever the other category is, and you'll be able to do that. But if you own a CZ, you can't buy a Swiss Arms, and if you own a Swiss Arms, you can't buy an 858. You'll only be able to buy that one that you currently are in possession of now that this bullshit is passed. But there's another blank category that has been left that is basically going to be whatever the RCMP determines is prohib is now prohib. Doesn't matter about any of the, physical attributes of the firearm, like so barrel length, caliber, all those things we mentioned earlier have no play in it. It's the RCMP has decided that this firearm is prohibited because it is prohibited. They don't like it. So all of a sudden they could say anything that's semi-automatic is now 12, 15, or whatever category they've decided to place this in. And once they do that, whoever owns one is going to be grandfathered in. But then once you die, you cannot pass that on to your offspring or anybody else. So if they go, well, you know, AR-15s and their variants are now restricted, but we don't like them, so they are now 12, whatever category they decide, you'll be able to continue to own it and shoot it at the gun range and do all of that. But when you die, you have to turn that in and they're going to melt it down. The same with handguns or any semi-auto rifle or whatever they decide on whatever criteria they want, they can place into that. And that's the scary part of this. It's laid the groundwork for them to basically say that anything they don't like is now prohibited.
Well, let's talk about the other thing with prohibited, because I've got a link in the show notes. If you're listening to the live show, you don't get the show notes, but if you listen to the podcast, if you download it in your podcast app, the show notes are part of that, and it'll be on the website later. How would Bill C-71 affect individual owners of, I can't speak Czech, CZ, and Swiss Arms firearms? And one of the things that the RCMP talks about on its website is that you had to register the firearm prior to June 30th of this year, 2018. I don't understand how you can prohibit or how you can register a non-restricted or non-prohibited firearm with the government when there's no non-restricted registry. As far as I know, no one has been able to successfully register one of these firearms.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those things that, especially with the 858s or even the Swiss Arms, because I think they fall into this too. So you could have a non-restricted license and legally own an 858 or a Swiss Arms that are, I mean, if you've got shit tons of money, that is, but that fall into the non-restricted category because the barrel length, they fall into that. Now, all of a sudden, if you own one of those, and now this is C-71 is passed, you are now in possession of a prohibited firearm. So you're going to have a non-restricted license, yet be in possession of a prohibited firearm? Does that mean then that you can acquire short-barreled 858s and or Swiss Arms?
Yeah, who knows, man? This is such a...
Like, it's so confusing.
It's not clear in the act. Like, the proposed legislation is not even remotely easy to understand. Like, it's not laid out nicely. And there's nothing in the legislation about this June 30th registration date. This is just the Queen's Cowboys making up a rule.
Yeah.
My understanding, if you own the CZs now, they're creating a new class of 12-.
Yeah, but like I said, like there's still two classes of 858s or Swiss Arms. There's restricted ones and there's non-restricted ones based on barrel length. Same with Swiss Arms. Like,
so they all become 12-6 or whatever. Or not 12-6, 12.
Well, whatever,
12,
whatever they do. So if I currently have a non-restricted license and I am legally in possession of an 18.6-inch barrel 858,
yes.
Now that this is passed, I can purchase a short-barreled 858.
Yes.
That's
and
like
both of those are neither. The short-barreled is no longer a restricted firearm.
Yeah,
it is
but
a
that's
12-9 firearm.
But that's the whole ridiculousness of this thing is that there was a thing that I couldn't own before, but I could own this one because this was legal, and now they've prohibited it. But because I've already got one of the ones that I could own legally, now I can own all of them legally. Like, it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah. I see. I think I get your confusion here. You're trying to have it make sense.
Well,
yeah. It's Canadian gun laws. It doesn't make sense. That's kind of the point. All right. Anything else for C-71? I think that's probably good until we get more stuff from the government.
It's just the This is just the first step.
All right, let's do the next thing. We got a little bit more time in the show. We'll quickly go through the new party that I don't know. I got mixed feelings about this. Maxime Bernier started a new party. It's the People's Party of Canada, PPC. I guess he heard the good letters were taking. That's CPP. They go the other way. So he started his own party now that he's no longer part of the Conservative caucus. So
Yeah.
I want to get your guys' thoughts on that, and then I want to look through the policy for the new party that he's trying to form, because they haven't actually formed the party because there's a process you have to do with Elections Canada. But Bernier says he's going to try and run candidates in like all 338 ridings, or however many it is. I think it's 338. It's a memorable number. If it's not that, it's because I'm thinking about a rifle that I want that's chambered in 338. The split from the Conservative thing, there has been much media languishing about this because the people that are reporting it are mostly that Bernier is no longer part of the party, and then everybody in the right media and Sun is like Bernier is splitting the Conservative vote. I want to hear what you guys think about this.
I don't think he will split the Conservative vote that much. I think he's going to split the Libertarian vote. Just like I think most of the candidates that he's going to run are the people that you see right now that are running for the Libertarian. I think they're going to jump over to him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn on this one. I mean, I'm a huge Bernier supporter. I believe the vast majority of positions he takes on things. You know, and this is the thing that I like. I think it's really shitty timing of him to do this, especially with the election being kind of there. Like, and I know, like, I'm a member of the Conservative Party and the Libertarian Party, and I know that in the next month there is going to be a vote for a merger between Max's party and the Libertarian Party, and a Tim Moen Bernier-led party. Man, that would be unbelievable, in my opinion.
That's almost enough to make me want to be a Libertarian again.
Yeah,
almost.
I think Max joining that party will boot out the weird, shitty leftist libertarians that don't seem to make sense, and be a true libertarian party, in my opinion.
Left libertarians make total sense. They stopped reading after the part about legalizing marijuana and gay marriage. Well, and
you know, I also live in the real world where I understand that ideals are not always the thing that win elections, and that sometimes you need to strategically vote, as much as I hate it. And so it's hard to tell whether it'll split the vote or not. Like, I mean, everything that Max has said about the Conservative Party is absolutely true. They have lost their core values. I mean, any conservative member that supports supply management and all of that nonsense is not a true conservative. Like,
I would argue there's a difference between supporting supply management and realizing that dismantling it is bad policy today.
I will also agree with that.
Well, I mean, we've had this conversation before. Like, if I could fix all the problems in the country by pushing the big red button, I wouldn't push the big red button because we recognize that it would do terrible things to a lot of people. But if we could push a red, like a pink button that it took 10 years to make that change, yeah, I'm pushing that fucking button.
Or we've slowly fixed
or a button to make. If you had that button that meant that it never happened to begin with, that's the button you want to hit.
Yeah.
So you're saying we need to go back in time and kill the Trudeau? No, wait, the other. Wrong fascist. My bad.
Yeah, the previous one that installed the whole thing.
Castro?
Yes.
Yes. Great Scott, yes. Marty. We need to go back and kill Castro.
Yeah, like so like I don't know, and Max didn't show up today to vote on C-71.
Okay, so conflicting reports about that. Did he not show up, or did he actually abstain?
So he
was not present for the vote.
He was not present during the vote.
So he's not being present during the vote the same thing as an abstention, or is that different?
Well, so he was there during question period. So he was in Ottawa. He was around the Parliament buildings.
Okay, so
He was
he had
not
previously
present.
said when he was a member of the I keep saying the backwards political party because fucking clown world. But
Yeah,
when he was a member of the Conservative caucus, he had released a statement saying that he was opposed to the C-71 and registering firearms and a lot of liberal nonsense about guns. So
It does
where
seem like
was
something he would be against.
well, and he had made statements to that effect in the media. So where was he today when there was a vote about this?
yeah. I don't know if he's still
He's a politician.
I mean, his showing up today and voting no really would not have made any fucking difference given the numbers.
I understand that, but as a leader of a new party and not being a member of a large caucus or even an actual caucus at this point,
yeah,
it concerns me for his leadership that he fails to be present on what should be a core platform issue.
and I agree. Like that's one of those. I don't know if this was still just a giant fuck you to the Conservative Party, which is why he didn't show up because, like I said,
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I want to know because if this was a fuck you to the Conservatives, then I can't vote for him to be the prime minister at the next election. But if he had like a legitimate reason he wasn't there, okay, then I can get over it and maybe I'll still vote for him. Because
so
to this point,
let's talk about whether it was.
So, from my understanding,
whether it was a big fuck you to the Conservatives or not, how was he representing his constituents today in Parliament?
Well, he wasn't, and that's my problem. So I'd like to know why he wasn't.
Fair. From my understanding, he is going to be sitting down with the CCFR in the next month-ish, and they are going to specifically ask him why he was not there today.
Cool, but that doesn't help me now.
No.
I'm doing the show now. I mean, we can revisit this. We always do. But...
and I'm sure we will. I mean, we do that a lot. And in my opinion, right now, I am going to hold off on judgment on him until I hear why he was not there.
Yep.
I am a little angry that he was not there because I am a big Max supporter, and his policy, from what I've seen, if it's the same policy that he had when he was running for the Conservative lead that he's got now, is probably one of the best we've seen.
Right. Okay,
well.
so
it's basically similar to the Conservative one with the addition of the removing the magazine capacities.
Well, okay, let's do the platform thing. Let's go through that. We'll start with the gun things. Clearly, the gun thing is the thing that matters to us because we pick our political parties based on how much of my private property they want to take away.
That's a good way to do that, though. I mean, I like my private property.
Okay, so on the People Party website, there are like 6 or 7 main points.
Yeah.
Oh, the fire and safety course thing. That was another interesting one that he added that was not in his election platform that I remember, but I do like that.
So in the party platform, I see a lot of the same things that were in his individual platform when he was trying to get Conservative Party leadership at the last race.
Which makes sense.
So let's go through the firearms one, and then we can hit the highlights out of the other categories. So make the firearm safety courses more widely available. 100% positive. There's no reason why they shouldn't be certifying as many people to be instructors as want to be instructors, because the government artificially limiting the number of instructors is stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Like that rounds that out. Nobody's got any.
That I believe that is unique to Mad Max. I do not see that in the Conservative platform. I did not see Scheer mentioning that in his election. Actually, I didn't see Max mention this one in his campaign either. This is new to me.
This is new, and I like this. This is good because there's no reason why there should be a limited number of firearms instructors in this country.
There should be as many people that want to teach the course that meet the requirements to teach the course.
Yeah, that are qualified to do it.
Free market, baby. Free market.
So we're all in favor of that. Double the length of firearms licenses from 5 to 10 years. Again, I don't see a problem with this. Everybody gets their automated background check every day. So
Yeah.
not renewing every 5 years. I'd rather not have the license at all. And if I can't have that, I'd rather have a license that was good forever. And if I can't have that, longer is better, right?
Exactly. It's one of those things. It's
we're all in
baby
agreement.
steps, right? Like, I mean, the NFA used to have the whole, when they were effective, the whole no compromise thing. And as much as I agree with that, I also disagree with it because sometimes we need to take small compromises to get those baby steps back to where we need to be. And this is one of them. If
Right,
it's going to
so-
be a 5-year, a 10-year is better because that's $80 less I need to spend every 5 years. I'm spending that over.
Honestly, it's not even about the $80 for me. It's just the hassle of having to do it because I already get my background check every day.
It's that small thing. It's like, okay,
Reapplying
so
doesn't do anything
if
to
I
enhance
can,
safety.
yeah, if I can prove I'm responsible for 5 years, I can prove I'm responsible for 10 years, which means I can prove I'm responsible for 20 years or an entire lifetime. It's that small baby step to get back there because no government is going to go from a 5-year license to no license.
Yep, we need that. So let's burn through some of these. Repeal magazine size restrictions.
Absolutely, it's ridiculous.
100%. Reimburse gun
that's
owners.
unique as well. That is the one big one that's unique to Bernier. So the conservatives have said they'll, repeal the magazine restrictions that don't make any sense, such as like the 1022.
1022 and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they've made that comment, but I don't know, like they've not specified beyond that what they think. So that I believe that the removing the 5 land limit is unique to Bernier because conservatives have never mentioned that specifically.
Yeah. And as we all know, the criminal can remove a rivet in seconds. So,
All right. Reimburse gun owners for property loss resulting from previous government gun grabs and end future gun grabs.
Yep.
Pros and cons on this one.
Yeah, this one got him into a bit of trouble with his, and I think there was a French-English translation. So I think the wording here is better than what it was when he had said it in the debate.
The con of this is that they're still going to allow gun grabs. The pro of it is at least
they're not. They're going to end future gun grabs. I have the opposite problem with this. I don't think we should be reimbursing for things that the government has already done. I mean, I don't like people's property being taken away, but this is a problem to take up with a past government. This is not going to win him votes that we're going to give out free money to people who had their guns taken away because the media will spin that in a very negative light.
Fair. I mean, I guess it all depends on how you read into this.
Well, I'm looking at this as how is the media going to spin this? All right, so this is a negative. Just no more confiscation of private property. Full stop. End it there. I'd be good with that. But I mean, it's not a bad policy.
And if they're going to at least attach a financial component to it to make it less likely to happen,
don't do it. Just stop taking away private property.
Yes, but
if you look at the details of this thing, what he's doing is they can know that neither RCMP nor cabinet can reclassify firearms. So once a firearm has a classification, that's
it can't change. And I'm absolutely on board with that. Yeah,
this makes sense because technical criteria: the gun is this big, it fires ammunition of this size, it is of this type of operation. It's a very technical, measurable, quantifiable process. It fits into one of these classes based on what it is. So there's no more need for the RCMP to arbitrarily change their mind 7 years after the fact. Swiss arms.
Yeah. That's these are suddenly classification.
Yeah. My only issue with
once you get that in, that solves this one.
Yeah, my only issue with that is that if all of a sudden they decide to change what the criteria is.
Well, I don't think he's doing that.
He isn't, but future, 30, 40, 50 years from now, they may decide that an 18.6-inch barrel is no longer okay. You need to have a longer barrel or something stupid like that. Look at all the nonsense we're dealing with today that we never thought we would have to deal with 20 years ago, right?
They've made that comment before that all the gun manufacturers they made the barrel length 4.1 or whatever for pistols, and then all the manufacturers started making ones to loophole guns that are just over the limit to circumvent the law. And it's like, no, it's not circumventing the law; it's complying with the law.
Yeah,
it's following it. Let's burn through some more of these because we're going to get bogged down. Canadian firearms laws are broken. I want to fix them. And he basically just goes through all of his above points in more detail. Stop the harassment of law-abiding gun owners.
Yep.
Good with that. And respect the rights of firearms owners is more of the same. And again, good with that.
Yeah, it should actually just be respect the rights of private property holders, but whatever.
All right. Did you guys have anything from the other 6 categories that you want to run through? Did you guys read
nobody cares.
categories?
I'll be honest, I haven't really read them because I've just been so fucking furious about
town
hall and everything else.
Let me give you a couple of good ones.
Give my opinion on anything that you bring up.
Scrap the carbon tax.
Agreed.
Equalization payments are unfair and need to be stopped.
Agreed.
Drop the corporate income tax rate from 15 to 10%.
Agreed.
Some bullshit nonsense. Some more bullshit nonsense. Ooh, here's a good one. CRTC, kick the CRTC out of telecom industry to allow for more competition. So he's talking about ending the CRTC.
Agreed.
Privatize Canada Post.
Agreed.
Abolish capital gains.
Yep.
Okay, some less good ones. Abolish the maple syrup cartel.
Other than the cost it's going to be incurred with that, I'm all for it. Like, the whole,
so there's some supply chain stuff in here. He talks about milk. He talks about maple syrup. There's some of these that are like, they're less good. But... So
when I was down in Utah shooting this last year, one of my buddies, Noah, he comes up to me. He's like, man, so my wife and I sat down and watched this Netflix documentary on like the Canadian maple syrup thing. And we thought it would be like a fucking joke. But he's like, but dude, like that's for real. Like that's like a mafia thing. I was like, yep. That's some serious fucking business. Like that's big dollars. And like he's like, I was shocked. I mean, and it's absolute bullshit. Like all of that supply management nonsense. Like Bernier is absolutely correct.
Yep. Oh
the
yeah.
problem is that
right about it.
It's going to cost us a shitload of money to get out of it. That's the problem I have with it. I can't stand that.
I'd still rather spend a lot of money now to get out of it than to not fix it and it keep costing us a lot of money forever.
Well, I think it's one of those things, like you said earlier, where it's got to be an incremental change, right? Like there's got to be that pink button that we can hit.
And this is okay. Now, this is my issue with this is that he's not released any details about how he plans to do it.
Fair, yeah.
And so all I know is that it's billions of dollars of property that needs to be taken from the farmers. Like, how are we going to do that? What is the plan? Because we're talking billions of dollars. So before I say yes or no on it, I want to know that there's a plan that is going to be, in the end, profitable for us to get out of it.
Yeah, and from my understanding, a lot of it is that he wants to have, or at least be able to have discussions about this, as opposed to just blindly accepting it.
Yeah, and I mean, they're still very early in this process. They're not an official party yet. I like what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the initial question of how do you guys think it's going to... Yeah. Oh, 100% agree. But let's get back to the initial comment of how do we think it's going to affect the votes? Do you think it's going to have a big split on the Conservatives?
Okay, so I obviously I consume a lot of media, and I've been reading about this, and I consume a lot of center of right media. The problem that I'm seeing is a lot of people are complaining that this is going to split the Conservative vote, and the people on the right are going to be split. We're going to have 4 parties now. We're going to have 2 on the left, and we're going to have 2 on the right. And I contend that these people are mistaken. We're going to have 1 party on the right, and it's going to be led by Bernier. We're going to have the Conservatives, which are in the middle, and then we're going to have the Socialists and the Communists. You know, the red ones and the orange ones. And as far as I'm concerned, the Conservatives are known much better because they are not protecting my rights as a private property owner. They are not doing anything to increase my border security. Like, the one legitimate function of a state, big S, is border security and national sovereignty. And the conservative government failed to do that for 4 years while they were in power.
Yep.
They're failing to do that now as the official opposition in the House. They are not fulfilling their mandate. So I don't see how we're going to split the vote on the right, because there is no vote on the right, because the conservatives are not a right party. Sure, they're more right than the communists or the socialists, but they're not a right party. And I want a right party because I want smaller government and less taxes and less interference and the ability to enjoy my private property. And it'd be nice if I could shoot motherfuckers that steal marijuana from me and my gay husband.
Yeah.
I don't see another.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I don't think that the conservatives are right, and everything that Bernier said about the conservatives losing their core values and everything is absolutely true. The problem is, though, is you start getting into this strategic voting and who is going to be the contender when you go into the election. And everyone's shitting on Max for doing this now. And like, I can't stand that he did this now. And especially if him and the Libertarian Party merge, I mean, that would be a hell of a contender, but I still don't know going into an election if they have enough strength to compete against the Liberals. And that's my problem with the whole thing. Like,
I don't think that they do to form a majority government. I foresee.
I'm fine with them forming a minority government so long as they're the ones in charge, because sometimes a minority government is the best government because nothing gets done.
Well, and I'd be okay with nothing getting done, and I'd actually like to see a coalition government form, because I would rather see we had more parties in government rather than two, because I don't like the American system of republicanism.
No, right? I don't either.
I don't like that style of government where you have literally the lesser of two evils, or in the case of the last US election, two assholes. Because I don't like either party in America, and I don't like either of their leaders in the last election. But I like the one that's in charge now a lot better than the one that killed my friends in Benghazi, because Hillary Clinton's a cunt. Am I allowed to say that's the internet? I guess I am.
Yeah, but you still don't. Yeah, it's you don't like them.
It's factual. I think you're allowed to say factual things.
You just like them less or dislike them less. Like, it's. I would love to have.
Right. I would much rather have a European system of parliamentary democracy like we see in a lot of EU countries, where there are 16 parties in government and shit just doesn't get accomplished unless they work together.
Or 0 parties and everyone is an independent, and you have to run on your own merit.
We've talked about this when we've talked about this before, and it becomes too hard to manage the electoral system when you have that.
But if everyone could just run and you vote on the person that you like based on their ideals, because the problem is just like today with the fucking C71 thing, you have a whipped vote. And as soon as you have to toe the party line, you are not doing what the constituents want. I mean, they may have voted for you based on other things, but on this particular topic, they may disagree with you completely. But because the shiny fucking pony or the little potato, depending on what you like to call him, I don't want to assume insults, says
assume his insult.
They do, like, and that's bullshit. You know,
no, it is. I agree with that. I don't see this splitting the conservative vote in a big way. I would really like to see that happen, and I would like to see them steal a lot of people off the Liberal Party who would generally vote Liberal because of minor things that they see as, well, I'm a Liberal because I'm for these social programs, and I would like to see them deliver these social and steal those votes, because they would be taking just as many of those as they would be conservatives, I think.
Oh, yeah. I would love to see him steal the conservative, the libertarian, and the liberal vote and fucking win. I would love to see that.
I'm in agreement with Marty that this is likely just going to move people around that are in the center with the libertarians, because I'm sorry, Tim Moen. I love you, buddy, but you don't have a serious party.
But, I mean, the benefit to those to the Bernier party, at least according to the Libertarian Party, is that it would give him a slate of candidates and funding immediately. Like, he would achieve party status like that as soon as they merge. He's a party, legitimately.
Well, I think that the Libertarian, like, they got to know that all of their candidates are jumping over. Like, that's who's jumping over. And so, like, they're not going to be a legitimate party if they don't do this.
So from what I've read in their email to me, because like I said, I'm a member of their party. I'm a member of a lot of parties because I like to know what the fuck's going on. It's that way I can vote accordingly. Their plan is to put it to vote within the next month or so and potentially change the name of the party so that if it backfires big time, they can go back to Libertarian Party. So they would come up with something else along those lines, but it would be a Bernier as the head with Tim Moen below him, and then all of the fundraising and candidates and everything
in place.
Would be in place immediately. So he would be able to go full head for the last, year and a half before the election? Somewhere in that ballpark? And
we're about a year from the election, depending on when they drop the writ.
October, right?
And just
depending on when they drop the writ, but yeah, next October.
Yeah, and just fucking nail it. Like, just full steam ahead, like, all funding, all candidates, let's go with this. Which I would love to see. But also,
and I think that's a very positive thing. So let me ask you guys this: in your particular ridings, who would you be voting for if they called the election for tomorrow? Like, based on what we've seen with Max so far, and what we've seen with the other political parties, it's Scheer with the Conservatives, Singh with the NDP, the shiniest of ponies with the Liberals, and Mad Max's new Libertarian People's Party of Canada coalition party.
That's a
I'm
hard
voting
one,
tomorrow.
man.
It's conservative.
It's hard. Like, if I'm voting based on everything I've seen so far, logically, and what's in my best interest, it's conservative. But I don't want to vote that way. I want to vote for Max and the crazy Libertarian Party because that is ultimately in my best interest, but I just don't know if they can beat the Conservatives right now. If they form a sort of merger thing and we see what the popularity is, then maybe it'll sway me. But I'd love to see where that goes, and I'm supporting it all the way to see where that goes. But until that judgment day, if you will, where I actually have to cast my ballot, man, I'm right on the fence because I am totally in Max's court, even though he didn't show up today, because that ultimately is where I want to go. But I just strategically, I don't know if that's smart for me, and I hate voting strategically, and I hate having to do it. But unfortunately, given my personal enjoyment of firearms and the pastime and all of that, I have to be political about it, and I have to vote in a way that's going to protect that right, because today sucked, man. I haven't felt this shitty since Bernier lost the Conservative election. And it sucks that you have to get political to enjoy a pastime, but if you enjoy firearms as a pastime, you have to get political. I
don't disagree. I mean, that's definitely my preference would be to have Bernier's party be a viable option. But you asked me if I had to vote today. As of today, I do not see that being a viable option, and it's life or death. Pretty well, we need Trudeau to not be elected next, and so because of that,
and I hate single issue voting too, especially when it's about something that should be a no-brainer. Right, like in firearms,
it's not
should
just
be
single issue though.
Oh, I know, but like if it comes down to conservative versus the Bernier libertarian thing, I think it will more or less come down to single issue voting and whatnot, because I think they'll be very similar. But I can't stand that. I enjoy a pastime that makes me have to be political. Like anyone that's I fucking love baseball. It doesn't matter where you vote on the political spectrum. You could just enjoy baseball. Right?
I don't understand. What's the sport?
Sports ball. If you enjoy sports ball of any form, be it baseball, football, or bowling, or the soccer, I hear that's a thing in Europe. You don't have to get political about it. You can just You can vote however you want to vote and then still go and enjoy your pastime. If you enjoy competitive shooting, hunting, even just hobby target shooting, to continue enjoying that hobby, you have to be political about it, because if you aren't, that's going to get taken away from you, and that's depressing.
It is, but this is also the only hobby where we have that, because other people are unhappy because they don't understand what it is we're doing.
And that's fine. I don't understand bowlers, but I'm not trying to take away bowling from people.
Right, but nobody's going around killing people with bowling balls. That's the difference.
No, but they are doing that with baseball bats. In greater numbers.
We should outlaw sports ball because of blunt force deaths.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Where I am right now, I'm right on the fence between the two. I need more data.
I look forward to seeing how the next year turns out with interviews with Mad Max, and hopefully forming a party and going through the Elections Canada process, and fingers crossed joining forces with Tim Moen.
Yeah, if he's gonna do it, that's the way he's gonna do it.
But here's my thing. I live in a riding that was 43% conservative. There's no way in hell the Greens or the NDP are winning in the riding I live in. It's going to be liberal or conservative.
Yeah. And
it's been conservative for a long time. And that it's trending towards more liberal, and I foresee that changing. Yeah. I would be very happy to have somebody in my riding that I was more in support of. And I like my MP for the riding I live in. Like, the dude, he's not a bad dude. But I would much rather, if I lived in Max's riding, be voting for Max. But I don't live in that part of Quebec. Like, I would absolutely much prefer to see him in. And when we're talking about, like, margins of victory, like in my riding, it's like 5% between the Conservatives and the Liberals. I would much rather give that couple of percentage points to Mad Max's party, whatever they're going to do with it, because they're still going to beat the shit out of the Green Party. They're still probably going to beat the NDP where I live.
Well, yeah, the Green Party only wins one seat, and it's in Guelph.
Yeah, fuck those guys. I got nothing else. I'm thoroughly depressed. Today is a very sad day.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been this bummed out since Max lost the Conservative vote. All
right, rapid fire feedback then. We've got a thing from jhicks.com. I'm not clicking on that link. Good try though, bud. 5 stars.
No. He's a CCFR guy and lives in the Great White North. You can vouch he's a real person, because I know, like, I actually know someone that knows him. Like, for real.
Moving right along. The review is titled Weekly Chuckle. I love this podcast. This is what it would sound like if I had a man cave. Lots of politics, guns, beer, and sarcasm. Keep up the good work. P.S. It could get back to more guns. Well, I hope that we fulfilled your request by talking about gun laws a whole bunch today, because there was kind of a theme.
Yeah, I think we need to. I mean, yes, certainly today a lot of gun related talk, but I think we need to do another, like, theme episode as opposed to a news episode where we talk something gun related. Maybe we'll be able to get one of the guys from the other podcast that we associate with and do, like, a cool AR that's not an AR show now that he's received his Stag 10 and I've got my SLR and there's some other things out there. Or something along those lines.
I do like something along those lines.
You know.
All right, let's do that outro. I don't know if we're going to make other things happen, but hey, we can try.
That's all we ask.
Gavin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Aside from drunkenly hanging out at the local tabernacle, you can find me on the Instagrams at urbex_GTA, or at the upcoming medical course, or at the upcoming shotgun match and/or ugly suit pistol match at SSA, or some other assorted places. Yeah. That's where you can find
Marty, you still don't believe in the internet?
Yeah, I don't think it's catching on.
You're probably right. You can find me at Ragnarok Tactical. Take a course, buy some bandages, buy some plates, buy a barrel. I sell barrels now, really good barrels. I also apparently choke on whiskey for no reason. Really good barrels, International Barrels Inc. barrels from Ryan Stacy in BC.
Yes.
The finest barrels, Dijon barrels, if you will. I don't know if you can make a Dijon barrel, but if anybody's making a Dijon barrel, it would be Ryan Stacy. Guy's a 5-time Queen medalist. He knows what he's doing. Buy a barrel, buy some body armor, buy bandages. I sell a lot of things that start with B's.
Bandages, barrels. Tacos don't start with B, though.
Yeah, we do have...
Tacos are great.
We do have tacos. Tacos are awesome.
Body armor starts with that.
Yeah, buy some stuff from Ragnarok Tactical. It's a good time. I'd give you a discount code, but I honestly can't remember what the Canadian Patriot podcast discount code is. So if you want a discount code, like email me feedback and I'll look it up
or you can use Gavin 10.
Okay, there you go. Use Gavin 10. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Use Gavin 10 at discount. Use Gavin 10 at checkout. You get a 10% discount.
Yeah.
I swear we made one for CPP, but I don't remember what it is. It's on the website somewhere.
Yeah,
Go find it. Get back to us.
Mine's the better one. Just use that one.
I want to thank Rigel Taka for taking the time to talk to us this past weekend at the Select Shooting Supplies 3rd Annual Range Day. I have to apologize to Rod. I'm sorry we could not fit him into the show this evening. I know he really wanted to be on, and we just couldn't make that happen.
I heard his flight got delayed coming back from the select shooting thing, so that's probably why he couldn't make it.
So for all of our listeners out there in podcast land, this is a part of the show where I remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.